We have some breaking news out of the NFL where Chicago pass rusher Khalil Mack's season is over. NFL Network reporting that Mack slated to have season-ending foot surgery. That puts an end to his fourth season in Chicago, where he had 6 sacks in 7 games. Now, Mack first injured the foot in Week 4 against the Lions, but hasn't appeared in a game since, being blown out by the Bucs in Week 7. The Bears did sign veteran pass rusher Bruce Irvin this week to help out. They are 3-6, have lost 4 straight heading into Sunday's game against the Ravens, a game you can see on CBS as you look at the Bears with and without Khalil Mack. And for more on this, let's now bring in the host of the Pick Six podcast, our Will Brinson, who's hopped on with us very quickly. Let's start with your reaction to this. Obviously, the team didn't put Mack on short-term IR, Will, but obviously it hasn't gotten any better in terms of the foot injury.
Yeah, Jerry, they were hoping to let him rest and recover and come back and play this year. That obviously didn't happen. He is now on injured reserve. The Bears at 3-6 are still on the periphery of this playoff race, just simply because the NFC the 6 and 7 seeds, in the NFC just remain wide open. We got the Saints and the Panthers at 5-4 and 5-5 in the playoffs as of today. So I think the running gag, like the Bears are in the hunt. Or in the picture, right? Like they're on the far right tier of teams that you would consider possible playoff teams. It really seems unlikely, obviously. I mean, they got a lot of teams they have to battle with. And with Mack being gone, I mean, you talk about this team and the strength of what they do, it's their defense. We saw that graphic that they posted, that our graphics team put up. When you're looking at it, 31 points per game allowed since Mack went down. I mean, they gave up 322 pass yards, 467 total yards to the 49ers. And then, while they didn't allow a ton of points, or a ton of yards, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's largely because, Mason Rudolph and whatnot. So, I think when you look at this team and the Bears, you have a defense that was not as good as it had been in previous years anyway, and now is really holding on by a thread, because there's actually another Jenga piece in that defense if he goes down, Akeem Hicks. And this is something to watch from a fantasy perspective and from a gambling perspective, is if Hicks is somehow misses time, and he's been a little banged up this year, this Bears defense is unable to stop anybody against the run. Roquan Smith will be another factor to watch in that as well. But man, I mean, this Bears defense could suddenly become a team that you target in fantasy as opposed to the other way around. And maybe it forces them to be a little more open and free with how they operate with Justin Fields and whether they let him, wing the ball around a little bit more. Hopefully they try to unleash him as in an effort to make the offense maybe a little bit better as the defense suffers with Khalil Mack's injury.
They signed veteran pass rusher Bruce Irvin this week, but how much are they going to miss Mack on the field and perhaps more importantly off of it?
Yeah, I mean, this guy's one of the team leaders, right? I mean, he was, we had that huge trade with Oakland back in the day, a blockbuster deal where they give up multiple first-round picks to bring him in. It's hard to say who the deal worked out for because the Raiders drafted terrible players. I think it was maybe David Arnett, who recently released, was one of those guys. The Bears certainly have gotten more production out of Mack based on the trade. But yeah, I mean, this is a guy who, a smart defensive player, the best defensive player on the team, and a guy who, is a leader in the locker room. This is a big loss for Chicago.
And when we talked about him being his 4th season here, putting an end to his 4th season. So, I mean, this is the time when organizations start to look at contract numbers and cap numbers and whatnot. And, I mean, have we seen the last of Khalil Mack in a Bears uniform?
It seems pretty likely that in the next 2 years we could see Chicago move on. If they wanted to make him a post-June 1 cut, they could save $12 million in salary cap space. Obviously, that number wouldn't, you would get the extra $6 million after June 1st, so it wouldn't impact free agency quite as much. But you would have only a $12 million cap hit, or dead cap hit, for Khalil Mack in 2022 if Chicago decided to move on. My guess would be that they wait 1 more year, just assuming that he has a successful recovery from foot surgery and all that, if only because he's still productive at his age. I think he was 31 now, or 30, 31. And with that cap number, you don't want to deal with that $24 million in dead cap and have to worry about that hold all the way to June if you can help it.
Part of the NFL Brain Trust here at CBS Sports HQ. Will Brinson hopping on real quickly with us to talk about the Chicago Bears putting Khalil Mack on IR for the rest of the season. Thanks very much for hopping on with us, Will. And of course, for more on this, And, of course, the NFL as a whole. Will is the host of the Pick Six podcast. He and the Super Friends breaking everything down for you in terms of league stories. And as we get set for Week 12, download and follow the Pick Six podcast wherever you get your preferred podcast audio. And, of course, big slate of games this Sunday on CBS, including the Ravens at the Chicago Bears. The Ravens 6-point favorites as they head into Chicago for that one. The Bears have lost 4 straight. And with the Khalil Mack injury, things not looking up. That's one of 4 games we have for you in the early window. Colts at Bills, another big game. And then Bengals at the Raiders. Caps our Sunday coverage at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time. All those games available on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.